Most people think they're being productive, but they're not. They're being busy, and busy is not productive. Hey, this is Jeff Heggie. Welcome to Jeff Heggie Daily Success Strategies. Thanks for being with me today. So before we get started, same thing we're going to do every Friday. On Monday, we talked about the things that you needed to do so that on Friday, you could look back and say it's been a successful week and that you're closer to your bigger goals. So number one, if you don't have those bigger goals written out, if you don't have a plan of action, your clearly defined goals, go get my free momentum series at jeffheggie.com/momentum, and that'll help you to set those goals so you know exactly what you're doing. Now, these are the things this week that you needed to change, as we talked about in the past, from a should to a must, so that you definitely got them done this week and you're accountable to them. So how was your week? Let me know. Send me a DM, email me at jeff@jeffheggie.com, or if you're watching this on a social media platform, leave a comment and let me know. All right. Have you ever been in a situation where at the end of the day you thought, man, that was a busy day, I was so productive, got so much done, and then you look back on the day and you realize you didn't get a lot done. You got a lot of little things pieced together, but you didn't really accomplish some of your big goals and get everything done that you had hoped to? Well, the other day, I went through an evening of being busy and not following my regular routine. I had some things that kind of got me off out of my routine, and I knew I had a really early morning the next day. And rather than doing some of the nightly things that I typically do, I just went to bed. The next morning I got up at 4:15, and I knew that I had a extra long workout at the gym that I wanted to do that day. But I also knew that I had to be back by 6:15, because that's when we get together as a family before the kids go to school to do some scripture study. And so instead of going through my regular morning routine, I kind of hurried through things and went to the gym. When I got home that day, we did our regular stuff with the kids, got them off to school, and then I was on my way back from taking my son to school and realized that I had a meeting starting in 5 minutes, and I was 10 minutes away from home. And I tell you what, from that point on, throughout the rest of the day, things just seemed to not click for me like they normally do. I wasn't on my game like I normally am. I wasn't able to focus on things like I normally do. And even after I completed one of my major tasks that I had for that day, rather than going on and starting the next thing I normally would have done, I got distracted and started looking at some other things. And then I got working on the task again, and then had some distractions again. I was very busy that day. I was not productive. So what I want to do today is I want to share some ideas with you that are going to help you to be more productive rather than busy. Now, being busy is something that happens as well, but too many people now take it on as a prideful thing, that they're proud to say how busy they are. But we should be more proud of how productive we're being. If you can get the same amount of stuff done in 2 hours that someone being really busy does in 3 hours, you've made some huge progress. You can get a lot more done throughout the day. You can spend a lot less hours doing it. So I want you to focus on being productive. Now, when we look at the things that we're doing, I'm going to share a few of my habits that help me to be more productive. First of all, it starts the day before. You can't wake up each morning with the best intentions of doing everything great without having a plan in place. If you can look at your schedule and plan your schedule the night before, there are some huge benefits to that. Number one, if I would have done that the other day, I would have realized that I booked an appointment earlier than I normally do, that I wouldn't have been on my way home from dropping my son off at school and then realized that I had an appointment. I would have known it was there, and I would have planned things accordingly. But if you can look at your schedule, if you can plan out your day the night before, you're going to have a lot of benefits there. Even the other day, I was listening to my wife with one of my children doing their homework, and she said, okay, we're done, you can go do whatever until bedtime, but just before bedtime I want to review this with you. so that you're thinking about it as you fall asleep. You know, I talk about using visualization before you fall asleep. It's the same thing. Having this figured out and your schedule planned and visualizing your next day before you go to sleep is going to help you be so much more productive the next day. But let's get into a few of the things. So besides looking at your schedule, besides planning it out the night before, you've got to really plan out properly. If you've ever heard the Stephen Covey presentation where he talks about putting the different size rocks into a jar, those are the things you've got to pay attention to. In that you can find it on YouTube. He's got the big rocks, the big important things in our lives, and then he's got a bunch of smaller rocks. And it's often that the little things that fill up our time will start filling up that jar. And then when you look at the important things, which are the big rocks, and try putting them all in the jar, there's no room for it. However, if we plan things properly and we start planning them in a way that we can fit the big rocks into the certain spaces, then those little things can fill in the cracks in between. And rather than filling the jar half up with the little rocks and all the big rocks not fitting, you're able to put all the big rocks in and all the little rocks fit as well. But we've got to have that paradigm shift of how we're going to fit all those together, and we've got to be disciplined in how we're going to do it. And that's a big part of it, is the discipline of following your plan of action. So as you're putting these things into place, you've got to be able to schedule your time. You've got to be able to look at your big rocks, and you've got to block your time. You've got to say, okay, tomorrow from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m., I'm working on this big rock, and I'm going to eliminate all distractions, and I'm going to focus on that. From 10 to 10:15, it might be a break. It's going to give you an opportunity to return voicemails, whatever it is. But you've got to look at those things and figure out where those big rocks are going to fit every day, and then allow the small rocks to fit in between. If you wake up in the morning with all the best intentions, but start letting all the little rocks fill up your time, by the end of the day, you're busy, but you haven't got all those big rocks in place. And a big part of it, as I said, is the discipline. You know, in my story about myself, I said, you know, I got one of my big projects done, but then I started getting distracted. I wasn't disciplined enough to say, okay, this is the next one that I'm moving on to. Now, you've got to have some flexibility. I've talked about the time blocking before with other people, and, you know, especially when you're in a leadership position, you can't just time block your day throughout the day and shut your door and be done with it, because you've got to help people. You've got to put out fires. You've got to be a leader in your team. But you can block time where they're going to survive without you for an hour. But you've also got to have that time in place that you've got to be able to be a leader, be with your team, and do those things. But you've still got to be able to fit those all together. And when the time is in place that you need to block that time and put your focus and discipline into it, that there's no distractions. But there's lots of things we work on when we talk about this. There's a lot of different things that we like to do. But number one, what you need to focus on is your own discipline. Plan things the day before. Know what you're going to do when you wake up the next day. And then when you have the opportunity to get started, you've got your plan in place, you can get at it, and you can get things done. Thanks for being with me. I hope you have a great weekend. I hope it's a productive weekend. Love for you to reach out. I'm still doing the free strategy calls. Send me an email at jeff@jeffheggie.com or DM me, and we can talk about how we can implement some of these strategies into your business or into your life and help you to take things to the next level. Now, if you're a small business owner, make sure to check out my free webinar. It helps you to, without spending more on marketing or advertising, recognizing some three easy ways that you can immediately increase your revenues and profits. Go to jeffheggie.com/moreprofit and you can get that for free. Thanks for being with me, and have a good weekend. I'll see you Monday.